It is showtime.
It just popped right up on us.
I
I
I
thought you
think
shut it off and came back on just to say hi or something. You
I
got
think
bored.
I think we're supposed to start the stream and then do the countdown. I think
Oh, well,
I think
nobody's
that's
on
what we're
yet.
doing.
Just do it.
I
Even
know,
though
right?
this is recorded.
Let's go back. Um all right, so I don't are you getting these messages? I hate everybody, which is nobody. Are you getting the messages that say that they're having trouble streaming to Facebook?
Mm, no, all I got was
No.
howdy y'all from Guns and Barbecue.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh, I just
howdy.
did. I just did. I just got a bunch of messages that popped up. We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. Issue with Facebook's end. It's possible the stream ended or deleted on Facebook. Oh no.
All right. Well,
Fake.
let's see if we can figure this out.
Okay. Well, we
You
got
talk
we
to
got one
everybody.
viewer, three
We have
viewers.
one viewer. Hey. Um,
Guns and Barbecue. I'm the first.
Guns and Barbecue. What's happening, man?
I'm the first. Yay!
This content is not available. All right, so it looks like it's not going to be available on the Facebook.
Yeah, no
Well,
messages about Facebook yet. Interesting. I'm wondering if it was because I just updated my connections. You told me that they weren't working.
yeah, they weren't working, but it's also on mine too. So you know
Yeah.
what? We are going to go with it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is great to see all of you here. Matt, it's been a couple weeks since we've had a show.
A little
What
bit.
have you been up to, sir?
Oh, I'm just building my new reloading bench. I'm getting the farm closed down for winter because we had snow today. We had like an inch, 2 inches of snow. It snowed off and on. We
Wow.
just closed down the RV for the season, and yeah, just trying to hunker down and get everything ready. I got to put my cab on my tractor so that I'm nice and warm and toasty while I'm plowing the driveway, and all the fun
Nice.
stuff of having a farm and rentals and
All the good
training,
stuff.
teaching. Just certified a couple USCCA instructors yesterday. Did a reloading
Oh, very
class the week
cool.
before. Yeah, got an
Nice.
academy going on. Anyway, what are you up to?
Excellent. I am one of those guys that fights the power, and I'm glad that it is November 1st and I have not put my heat on yet. I am so bad. This is how bad I am. I haven't even put the flannel sheets on my bed.
No,
Yeah, but it's supposed to get into the 20s tonight, so I might
ooh,
put the flannel sheets on.
really? Out there?
Yes, yes,
You'd hear that coming from me, like in New York, but I
yeah.
guess
I know,
is
I
that
know.
normal for you guys to get that cold out that way?
Well, yeah, in the winter, yeah. Usually not this early in November, but
Right. Yeah. Good point.
well, who cares? And the other exciting thing that I've done is this past weekend, I went to Southern Virginia with John Petrolino. We
Mm-hmm.
made a pilgrimage down to Farmville,
Okay.
and there are two famous red bearded men that are from Farmville. One of them is the Second Amendment media extraordinaire Cam Edwards, and the other one is Oliver Anthony, the guy that wrote that song, "The Richmond North of Richmond."
Yep.
And I'm gonna pull our guest in for this story. Our guest tonight is Laura Carno from Faster Saves Lives. She is my sister from another Mister.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
It
How
is
are
great
you?
to see you. So I'm bringing you in for this story, Laura, because you are good friends with Cam Edwards.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, when I saw your pictures, I was like, I'm so jealous. I wanted to be there.
I know. I'm like, where was my invite? Holy cow!
this is really funny to me that everyone thinks there's something going on between me and Petrolino, and there's not. But his wife was saying, she's like, I see all the pictures and everyone's jealous of you guys. I'm like, so they wonder what's going on, which is nothing, and every one of them is jealous, and I'm like, that's a good thing. But
They're jealous of nothing.
yeah, exactly.
But was the
So
concert good?
so here's the scoop. So Petrolino and I rolled into Farmville on Friday evening, and we're both exhausted, because we'd been driving for 6.5 hours that day.
Yep.
We get to Farmville, and I'm like, let's see what's going on for live music. Like, what do people do in Farmville for fun? And legit, he's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Dude, let's take a little bit of the local culture in." I looked on my phone for live music near me, and it said that Oliver Anthony was playing at Longwood
Wow.
University the very next night.
Hmm.
So I messaged Cam. I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go see Oliver Anthony, and he's like, "How much are tickets?" I'm like, "Tickets are $22." And he's like,
Wow, that's great.
so I got tickets for the three of us, and Saturday morning we got up. We went Sporting Clays with Cam and Miss E, and then Saturday evening, the three of us, the three amigos, went out and saw Oliver Anthony, and had a cool time. Man, it was a lot of fun.
That's good that he's keeping the price low on those. That's it's commendable.
It was, I think, the first time that he's played since he's blown up.
Really?
So yeah, which is pretty cool. So
Interesting.
I did email him to see if I could get him in the stagecoach, and he did not reply.
No, it's kind of busy. You know, he probably thinks you're one of them Northmen north of Richland.
Yeah, right. I have put a picture of me and Petrolino up, and it says, "We're the poor men south of Richmond."
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so enough about that, man. That's what I've been up to.
Awesome.
Laura Carno is our guest. Laura Carno is, as you can see, she has a Wonder Woman behind her because she is a Wonder Woman herself. She is from Faster, Colorado, which is the Colorado version of Faster Saves Lives. And we are going to talk about that tonight.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I am. So I don't want to say that I'm a chump. I did take some of Laura's. I interviewed a show with Laura back in over the summer, and I did take some of her advice, but I haven't acted on it yet. I need.
I gave you advice.
I know, shocking. It wasn't Get Out either.
Duck.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Leave. No, you said that I should contact some Denver gun stores to see if they want to sponsor the shows, and it's something that I've sort of done and sort of done and sort of done, and now that I have to put those shows out, I haven't done it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like,
so it's not that you haven't taken the advice; you just have some tasks that are not yet done.
You make it sound so much better.
That is a great way to eat a shit sandwich.
Yes,
I have some tact and diplomacy here.
Absolutely.
That's
so
great.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about you. Tell us about Faster.
Yeah. So if you had bumped into me, I don't know, 20 years ago and said, fast forward 20 years, you're going to be doing this thing, I would have told you were crazy, because there was no way that I could have seen a path from what I was doing, which was I worked in the financial services industry. I had a basic job where I did things and traveled around, and it's kind of boring compared to what I do today. But yeah, I kind of tripped and fell into politics back in 2008, and that led to being a part of some recalls that we did here in 2013 in Colorado. We recalled 2 state senators over their gun control votes.
Wow.
That led to meeting a bunch of people from Ohio that came out and helped us with our recalls. And that led to those same Ohio folks saying, you should come see what we're doing at Faster Saves Lives in Ohio. And so I went, I visited a class in 2016. And 2017, we had our first class here in Colorado, and the rest is history. I at one point very recently, I had way too many jobs, and Faster Colorado was just getting so big. I've now shed all of the other things that I've done that I was doing. So I just now I shouldn't say that. I do a few other things, not the million other things I used to do, mostly just Faster, because it's gotten so big and so busy and complex here. It really needed my full-time attention.
That is, that's very cool. That is very cool. So tell us more about Faster. So we know it started in Ohio. You went and checked them out.
Yeah.
What does Faster do?
Yeah. So for folks that aren't familiar with Faster Saves Lives or Faster Colorado, there are a majority of states, and I think it's like 34 states, that there is some legal way for schools to be able to have armed staff. So this wouldn't be a school resource officer. This would be, the janitor, the coach, the teacher, the lunch lady, whoever. And Colorado is one of those states, and we've had the law for about 20 years now. Before Faster came along, these armed school security teams, I'll just call them that more generic term. Before we came along, they were getting their training somewhere. When I saw Faster Saves Lives in Ohio, I thought Colorado needs to have the safest schools in the country. We had Columbine here. We had STEM school here. We had Arapahoe High School. We had 3 major school shootings here. We have to be able to be the safest, have the safest schools in the country. And although people were getting their required hours, we wanted them to have access to world-class training. So what I did when I came back from Ohio was assembled a team of instructors who are all active duty law enforcement instructors. They're SWAT guys. They train SWAT teams, lead SWAT teams. So that's who actually teaches the class. And we now have 4 levels. So the folks that have been with us 4 or more years get to keep progressing to, be learning more advanced skills. And our instructors say there is no end to the drills that we can teach. The upper levels 3 and 4, we do 1 full day in a school. So you can mock up schools at the range all you want and, put air walls up to simulate hallways and stuff. But until you're in a school with kids' drawings on the walls and lockers in the hallways, an actual wood shop and auto shop and things like that, it doesn't hit home at the same as being in a school. So yeah, we've had 350 people go through in the last 7 years, 45 school districts in Colorado. And when we started this, we got all kinds of people saying all kinds of things. And now it's I hate to say it's almost mainstream, but with every single school shooting that happens, there are more and more schools, more and more parents that are saying, how do I keep my kids safe? This looks like the thing that protects them until law enforcement gets there.
That's great. For something like that to be out there, and the number is awesome, but I just would love to see more. So how can people get involved? How can people help the organization, but then also get this program and training into their schools and get trained on it?
Yeah, so let me start Colorado, and then I know you've got folks watching from all over the country. In Colorado, your school board is the body that approves this policy. So in Colorado, if you're a parent, grandparent, community member, whatever, start by going to your school board meeting, listen to what they're talking about, use your public comment. That you usually have 2 or 3 minutes that members of the public can say whatever they want. Talk about what would happen in the event of a violent attack on a school. How are the children going to be saved? You're very, very concerned about that. You want to make sure that they are willing to talk about having armed people on campus. I would start with something very basic like that, and see where that conversation goes. The next meeting, bring a few of your friends. The next meeting, bring 10 of your friends. You really have to be talking about this. At election time, if you are talking to school board candidates, you have to make it very, very clear to them that you will be voting for the school board candidate that is willing to have this conversation about having an armed presence at the point of attack to be able to protect the children. So it really is a parent-driven policy. So like I said, in Colorado, it's school boards that do that. Across the country, typically it's some sort of a local control like that, either the school board, the sheriff, the superintendent. So folks in whatever state you're in, just your local schools are going to know, your local sheriff will know what is the process here in our state and how do I impact that.
Very nice. The ability to get into schools in New York is definitely a tough thing here. They're so adamant about, we don't want guns in schools. Well, yeah, you're going to have guns in schools. You're going to have bad guys in there with guns. Right. So, only thing that stops a bad guy is a good guy with a gun, right?
Right, and that's really a very good answer to that for districts that say we don't want schools or we don't want guns in schools. Well, you can lay out the number of school shootings where somebody did bring a gun into a school, into a gun-free zone, who wasn't authorized. So who's going to stop them? Who's going to make it not not a one-sided gunfight. You know, if we've got people shooting, if we have somebody shooting at children, shooting at school staff, somebody has to stop them.
Yeah, and you'll have people say, "Well, I don't want my kids in a prison," and I say, "Well, I don't want them in a morgue."
Yeah,
That's my quick, witty response to that, and they're like, "Well, that's just," and I'm like, "What did we do at 9/11? After 9/11, we hardened the airports, we hardened the airplanes, so people couldn't get in the cockpit, so people couldn't even get on the plane that were meant to do bad things. Why aren't we thinking the same way for schools? It makes no sense."
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned airplanes. The American public, generally speaking, is very comfortable with 1 out of 10 cockpits having an armed pilot. Why is that geography of an airplane so much different than the geography of a school? And the children are much less able to, especially the little ones, much less able to put up any sort of a fight compared to a bunch of adults on a plane. So I don't understand that rationale. But back to bad guys are going to do bad guy things, and so the prison comment here in Colorado, about 9% of the population has a concealed carry permit, and so I would ask, do you feel like you're in a prison when you go to the grocery store? Do you feel like you're in a prison when you go to the sporting goods store? Because you've got a whole bunch of people armed around you. You have no idea they're armed because they're concealed carry. And that's what armed schools look like. It's the teacher, the janitor, the principal going about their day, like all of us do who conceal carry on a daily basis. They just have permission to carry on campus. And so it doesn't look like a prison. And so the difference between what people think is happening or would happen and what the reality is are two very different things.
Absolutely. That is a great point because people do carry everywhere. And I think there are more people that are carrying. We're all instructors, and in the summer of 2020, I had legit 6 months worth of business in June of 2020 alone. Because so many people wanted to get a concealed carry permit after the mostly peaceful and a little fiery protests that people had. So there were more people that were interested in getting a gun license and getting a gun to be able to protect themselves. And there are more and more people that are carrying. And, like you said, that is a great line that, do you feel like you're in a prison when you're at the store? Do you feel like you're in prison when you're at the grocery store or at Walmart or Target or, whatever, wherever it is that you're shopping? Because there are people that are carrying there all of the time and every day.
Yeah. And it in most of our states, it just looks very normal. I mean, here in Colorado, we do have open carry in most areas. And I live, sort of on the edge of kind of between the suburbs and rural areas. So you might occasionally see people open carrying. It's not the most common thing to see here, but it's not abnormal when we see somebody open carrying in at least on the edge of the rural area. But that's the thing we don't see is how many people are concealed carrying. And as we all know, concealed carry holders are the most law-abiding segment of society. So not only are we not seeing all these concealed carry folks, we're actually safer just as in the general public because they're all around us. So it's a pretty interesting thing that non-gun people maybe haven't fully thought through because they might not know folks like us that carry on a regular basis.
I know that before I started to, just the very beginning of me becoming a gun guy, I was still playing in a band. And one of the guys that I was in the band with went out to, I don't know if it was Colorado or Arizona, but he went somewhere out to the Southwest area. And he said to me, he's like, "Oh, Charlie, these are your people. These are gun people. Everybody's open carrying guns out there." And I'm like, "Well, that's pretty wild. How come you're not for that here in Massachusetts?" "Well, I don't want people carrying guns around here." And it was felt like a lot of the NIMBY stuff, the not in my backyard. Oh, well,
Interesting.
people carry open carry guns, but not where I live because it's dangerous and the people here are crazy and can't control themselves.
So I want to get your guys' opinion on this, and obviously the viewers and the listeners as well. I've always said that when it comes to people that hate guns, it's usually one of two reasons. In individuals, more so, either they're ignorant, so they're not educated on firearms, or they have emotion attached to it for some reason. Somebody died close in the family, or some horrific thing happened, and they just hate guns because that tool is what maybe caused demise in their family. So that's on the individual side. And on the politician side, I think it's ignorance or it's power hungry. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and they don't want guns because obviously the more people that have guns, the less they can get away with whatever the hell they want to get away with to be able to keeping power. So that's my take on both sides of politicians and individuals, and both of them have a key component of ignorance.
Yeah, and who is it that's educating them? And so, individual, right,
yeah,
right, and so individuals like us, as we interact with people, just in the course of our normal day, I think it falls to us and the folks watching this video. It falls to people like us who are having those conversations with just ordinary Americans who, say like, here's your people. It was kind of cool to see that, but why don't you want it in Massachusetts? That's our opportunity to say, so what do you see as the difference? And we all know, because we research such things, that people who are open carrying are not, they're not your problem. They're not the ones you need to worry about.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So
I just did I do a weekly segment locally on iHeartRadio every Wednesday morning, and this morning we talked about it in the sense of people going to the airport with firearms and showing up. This one guy got arrested twice in Philadelphia recently for bringing a gun to the airport, and the thought is okay, this legal person that doesn't want to do harm to anybody brings a gun to the airport and makes a mistake, not intending to hurt anybody, and now he's going to be screwed for the rest of his life because of this, financially and criminally. But then you got a bad guy who doesn't abide by the law, doesn't care about signs, that's intending to do bad things and isn't going to abide by the law anyways, and those are the ones that are getting arrested and let go repeatedly over and over with these new catch and release laws, these bail reforms that the states like New York put forward. It's bad. It's the cart before the horse. It's when you call good evil and evil good.
Right. And so you're describing the same thing that happens at schools, where it's a gun-free zone, absent, these sorts of policies. It's a gun-free zone, and that never keeps these deranged killers from coming onto campus and, whatever their vendetta is, coming on campus to try and kill as many people as possible. Nothing's going to stop that. We can't hope that away. We can't wish that away. But we can train armed defenders to be there at the point of attack, even when, like we talk to schools all the time that have school resource officers, a member of the local police department or sheriff's office who work in the school. Well, that's great. I'm all for that. I'm all of the above. But in the Arapahoe High School shooting that happened here in Colorado in 2014, there was a school resource officer on that campus. The shooting happened in the library. The SRO sprinted. It took him like 46 seconds to run from where he was to the library. It's a very large campus. But by the time he got there, Claire Davis had already been shot. So you ask yourself the question, and there, by the way, there was only one student that died there, Claire Davis. But if you're the Davis family, that's your one.
Right.
Not that you don't care about the other students, but you have lost a child, which parents should never lose a child. So how do we save that first child? What if that school district had an armed staff program and the librarian happened to be one of the armed staffers? That librarian, had he or she been a part of the program, would have at least have a chance to save Claire Davis and not have to wait 46 seconds for a good guy with a gun to sprint across across the campus. So it's really that wherever the geography is, right, it's that same story played out over and over.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah. So as Warsaw Patriot pointed out, when you take a look at Chicago, there's a mass shooting in the south side of Chicago every weekend. And I think there's a news source that actually keeps a tally of how many people are shot in the city of Chicago throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, and don't we care about those people? I care about all of those children that die too. In addition to the children that are in schools or in churches. But somehow when we're talking about schools, and we've got teachers unions that are involved in these conversations. Let's not forget that that's a group of people that very much tends to the left, which very much tends to the anti-gun side. It's very political. And I was part of a panel, I don't know, a few weeks back, and one of the other panelists said, if we can just take the politics out of this, set aside gun politics, 2A politics, whatever you want to call it, and let's talk about what has actually worked and what has actually not worked. I think we're going to come to the conclusion that we want somebody there to stop the killing as soon as possible.
For sure.
And if we need to talk about what that looks like, let's talk about what it looks like. But nowhere other than the gun argument do you see so many emotions lining up against something that is so well documented to make a positive difference.
Right.
I made that point earlier this morning on the show too, that with the shooter in Maine, and how many people are saying we need to ban assault rifles. And we know AR doesn't stand for assault rifle or automatic rifle, and though we love America, it doesn't stand for American rifle. It's Armalite. But regardless, they're going after that, even though it was a .308 caliber, not a .556 typical caliber for an AR. Besides all that, but then you ask somebody, this guy was on the run for 2 days. 2 days, and it wasn't law enforcement that stopped him. He shot himself. So with that being said, the 2 days he was on the run, what would you do if you're anti-gun and he kicked your door in and came in your house? You ain't singing Kumbaya and asking him to put the gun down because he's committing a crime. Right? Wouldn't you want to be armed to defend yourself against somebody who's gone off the rails and that's armed? Yeah, I mean, that makes have the right tool for the job.
Right. There is no, it's not morally better to lay down and take it and get killed. Yeah. That is not morally better. What's morally better, and I'll speak as a woman who, women are more frequently victimized. We are typically smaller than our attackers. There might be multiple attackers. We always talk about the gun being the great equalizer. And I've talked to women over the years that I've been involved in 2A activism who've said, but if he's not going to kill you and it's just a rape, then you really don't need the gun. And I know that people come from very different experiences and backgrounds and worldviews and all that stuff. But the way I look at it is that is not morally better for me to lay there and take it. Right. I have a right to protect. I have an obligation to protect myself, to protect my family. If my little grandkids were in my house, there's nothing I wouldn't do to protect them if somebody kicked in my door. And so there are just different, I'm going to just call it worldviews. There are different worldviews because I'm going to say I've had that exact conversation at least a dozen times so there are at least a dozen women just in my, where I've been here in Colorado, who say, but if he's not going to kill you, isn't it better just to let the rape happen? And I can't get my head around that.
No, that makes no sense.
It boggles my mind when I talk to my friends who are often, the liberal persuasion, and they don't have kids. And I often tell people the reason there's two reasons, even though the NRA says there are 6 reasons people have guns, there's really 2 reasons. One of them is to protect your family, and the other one is to overthrow the government. And when my liberal friends get married and have kids, and then you have this conversation over a glass of wine where they're like, oh, I would do anything for my kids. And I like to look at them and say, Really? Would you do anything? Would you protect your kids? Would you pick up a gun and shoot a bad guy? And they're all full of, oh, I would absolutely pick up a gun and shoot a bad guy. And I would
While
say,
they're
cool.
drinking.
Well, yeah. I say, cool. So here's what you need to do to get a gun license. You've got to sit through a class. You've got to go through 2 background checks. You've got to wait somewhere between 1 to 2 months to get to get your license. Then you've got to go take some training to learn how to use the gun. And if you think the bad guy's going to sit here and wait for 3 months for that to happen,
Right.
you're an idiot. Why do you say you'll do anything for your kids? But this is like a Meatloaf song, right? You'll do anything, but you won't do that. And that's the stuff that you really need to do. If you're going to say you're going to protect your kids, then this is what you need to do. And Laura, you actually brought something up. I was listening to you on the gun experiment this past week, and oh God, there was a question that you asked them. There was a question that you asked, and I'm sure you've asked it a number of times.
I'm sure it was brilliant.
It was. It was. And it was. It's going to come back to me. As it's coming back to me, we do want to mention to people that you should go to meetthepressers.com/giveaway and enter yourself in for the giveaway, because tonight we are going to be giving away a green laser cert pistol and a Mantis X. So please make sure you do that. I can't come up with it. So we're going to look at some of these comments that people have made. Let's check some of these out. Wild Bill 1989 says, Coliana War made a great point. A sign does nothing to stop a bad guy with a gun. Ultimately, a good guy with a gun must intervene. Rather, it's police, or whether it's a police or a CCW holder, signs do not help. Do not help any law. Absolutely.
And real quick on that, being law enforcement, I'm the director of a peace officer academy right now. I've got an academy going on this month, and well, started last month, goes on the end of this month. I'm the chief of a small town. They're the cleanup crew. Law enforcement is the cleanup crew. So anybody that thinks law enforcement, and the whole saying that police are only minutes away when seconds count, is so true and profound. The EMTs, paramedics, police, firefighters, they all get there after the problem has already started or after it's over to clean it up. People got to remember that. And something I coined a while ago, I call it the pyramid of priorities. You are at the top of that pyramid. You are your family's first responder. Clint likes saying it. Clint Macro likes saying that all the time. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. You are your family's first responder. It's your responsibility to take care of your family. Nobody else's. Be a man, be a woman, protect your family, because that's the next on that pyramid is family that you love, and then friends that you care about, and then complete strangers you owe nothing to. That is the pyramid. Put them in order. Keep them in order. Keep your priorities in order, people.
Yes. Priorities of life, right?
Yep.
And when you talk about when seconds count, police are minutes away, what we see in the school setting is there are schools that have school resource officers. There are schools that have professional armed security. Again, I'm happy with all of the above. But if you don't have that other level of concealed carry armed people, the killer is just going to wait to do his crime until those uniformed armed people are out of sight. They go to the restroom. They're at the other end of the campus. And the killers need to know, or these potential killers need to know, that there could be an armed behind every blade of grass.
Yep.
Because as soon when most schools have armed defense, these killers will stop going to our schools and killing our children.
That's why they target those locations. They target that place and those places, church. I mean, look at the guy at the Buffalo Tops. He specifically picked Buffalo, New York, because he figured that'd be the easiest place to go shoot people because New York's laws were so tough on guns.
Right. Yep. The Lewiston, Maine shooter picked a couple of gun-free zones because, you don't have to have a permit in the state of Maine. All of the people that are lawful and responsible are going to be lawful, and they're not going to carry a gun into a place that's a gun-free zone.
Yep. And similar to what we see over and over in school shootings, in the Lewiston situation, law enforcement knew about him. He was a known threat. This happens time and time and time again in school shootings. That one of our most recent shooting here in Colorado, the STEM school shooting, which is not a mass shooting because a student lunged the shooter, died in the process, and saved a room full of his classmates. That would have been like a Uvalde level shooting, but for Kendrick Castillo giving his life to save his friends, which children should not be doing.
Right.
But Kendrick's parents, John and Maria, are engaged in a legal battle right now to find out from the school what they knew about these killers. There were two of them in this case, what they knew about the killers. And, what their attorney said on a news program is, what you're going to learn is going to shock Colorado. And so, yes, we want armed people to protect our children, but take a step back and look at what one of the posters had talked about: root causes. What are the root causes of these things, and how do we stop them from happening in the beginning? How do we find these? Because they're nearly all of them are troubled students or former students. How when we see something that causes us to say, my gosh, this person could shoot up a school, this person intends to commit suicide by cop, what are we doing? What is the school doing? What is local law enforcement doing if it's brought to their attention? Because just because we're armed doesn't mean that none of us are dying to use our firearm to stop a crime. We hope that the crime isn't happening in the first place. Sure. But same thing in Lewiston. And it's early-ish in the investigation, so more will come out. But by all evidence coming out now, the cops really were very much in contact with this person. What else could have been done?
I'm befuddled that, like the old saying always goes, we protect our money, we protect our politicians, we protect our movie stars, we protect our banks, all with guns, all these hard targets, right? But our soft targets, our most valuable possession, our children, we're not protecting them with guns. I mean, right. I just don't, I don't see how anybody can find that. And the only way that I could think that anybody would find that that's not the case, why we shouldn't be doing that, is because ultimately, internally, they know they're soft targets, and that if it bleeds, it leads. If it, don't let a good story go to waste. And this is their way. Well, if we protect the kids with guns, less kids will die. Therefore, we can't use that to try to get rid of guns. That's the only logic I can find, is that they purposely don't want to protect the kids because of that. So homeschool. Everybody should homeschool. Take your kids out of school, homeschool. COVID really helped the homeschool, helped the homeschool numbers. I was doing an interview and on this topic, and I'm going to say maybe he was the director. He was operating the cameras and getting this mic'd up and all that stuff. And after the interview, he said, the lingerie department at the department store has an armed guard. And it just really struck me, like the difference between our precious children, and in my case, grandchildren, these precious little ones, versus lingerie at the department store. And it struck me as funny and sad at the same time, that everybody is perfectly fine seeing an armed guard at the department store standing next to the lingerie. And all of a sudden people have difficulty when you move to the geography of a school. It's insane.
Right.
Yeah.
It completely is. There was one of the, something that you brought up, Matt, about Lewiston is the government knew about this guy. And like you guys said, we know about this all the time. When it's news speak when they say the murderer was known by the police, but to me the biggest thing is not the biggest thing, I guess, but one of the things that's up there, it's obviously very important, is the government's failure to do anything about this. Right. They sit here and call and say, oh, all these states need red flag laws. Okay, well, Maine has a yellow flag law, which I think the police can take someone's rights and firearms away from them. And I think when he was committed into a mental institute for a couple weeks. I believe that they did take his firearms from him, but he ended up getting some firearms from somewhere else. And every time they push for, we know we need a 3-day waiting period, we need a 10-day waiting period, we need a cooling off period. I saw a story that said that the murderer tried to buy a suppressor 2 months ago. Well, dude, if he's buying a suppressor 2 months ago, you know what he's had time to do? Pass a 3-day waiting period, pass a 10-day waiting
Right.
period, pass a 21-day waiting period.
How many posts did he make? How many people did he talk to?
Right. Like, yeah, it's the government's failure to do this. And, like we've all said, you're your own first responder.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to do anything about it, that's fine. Don't let other people stop from being their own first responder.
Right.
And Matt was talking about the police earlier. All the police car, I say this in classes. I say all the police cars say to serve and protect on them, but it's really to clean up and write a report.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to respond to these things on your own. You have to take your own personal security seriously.
Totally.
In the chat, Gun Websites is asking a question. Is it possible for Faster to get the gun safety funds being allocated to states from the federal bills passed a few years back? So I talked to Amanda, who's doing some work with Faster Saves Lives on this exact thing. So kind of dipping their toe into, figuring out if, how that money is available. I'll tell you from a Colorado standpoint, there and each state look to see if your state has funds that match this, because there's a lot of different language out there. We do, as Ohio does, we do medical training as a portion of our class, tourniquets and different things like that, stop the bleed type things. But there are school safety grants for security training, and we have school districts that have applied for these state grants in Colorado to be able to help fund their ongoing training through Faster, plus the myriad other types of trainings that are out there not having anything to do with armed response, medical training, that sort of thing. So good question about the federal gun safety funds, but folks should also check what's going on in their own state, because a lot of states have this sort of thing too, maybe with a little bit less red tape because it's state, not federal, depending on the state, perhaps New York.
and Warsaw Patriot had, yes, I agree with you where you're coming from, for sure. He wanted me to answer that. And root cause, it is the root cause, mental disorder, etc. They want to focus on firearms when, firearms are a tool that can be used to stop some of these bad guys. But why aren't these government agencies being sued, like what happened in Uvalde, Texas? I mean, sue the government agencies, where the government agencies now are forced to see where their flaws are and actually start putting towards a good response to this ahead of time, and do their job correctly. But immediately they go on emotion and they focus on the tool. They don't focus on, picture this. Somebody's driving a vehicle and the vehicle breaks down and crashes into somebody and kills a kid. And then you immediately want to ban cars. No, why don't we go to the car dealership or the car, the car manufacturer, and if it's something that's constantly happening and that car broke down, well, then it's the car's fault or the government's fault, because the government, skirted corners and let this car company make this car crappily or whatever.
Crappily.
Yeah, crappily.
I'm going to use
it
that
here.
word.
Crappily.
I like it.
Crappily.
Yeah. So I mentioned the Arapahoe High School shooting in 2014. Claire Davis's parents asked the school something similar to what the Castillos are asking in STEM school. What did you know? What broke down? How did this happen to our daughter? And Arapahoe High School, crickets. They lawyered up. They wouldn't speak. So the legislature did a bipartisan leadership bill, which here means the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, who were two different parties, said, this is wrong and we're going to do something about it. Good. And so they passed the Claire Davis Act. And what that says is that schools have to do, and I forget all of the words, but take reasonable precautions to make sure that children are safe. And the penalties have to do, there's some monetary penalties, but have to do with disclosure, that they have to tell the public what they know. So the Castillos are actually using the Claire Davis Act to go after STEM school to say, and the Castillos don't want any money. They've been very clear they won't be settled with. They want information. What did you know? How did you let this happen to our son? So that other people's children can be safer. So to your point, Matt, at what point do we go after the government, in this case, the school, and hold them accountable? And Colorado has this Claire Davis Act, and my understanding is it's first in the nation. But I think it's a really good model for other states to look at. When parents send their children to school,
mandatorily send them to school. I mean,
right,
they make them send them to school,
right,
by law.
You are hiring the school with your tax dollars.
Yep.
They report to you. You are the customer here. Yep. And it is the right and responsibility of parents to direct the education and upbringing of their children, not the school. This extends to school safety. It's not just about curriculum and pronouns and stuff. It is safety. We expect our children to be returned home alive every single day, not just most days. Every single day is not too high a bar.
It's such a gut punch. When you said that, like my butterflies hit my stomach. When you said we expect our children to be sent home alive every day. I mean, let that sink in. I mean, that right there is profound. Like, who in their right mind would think they'd send their kids away to die?
Right.
Nobody would want. Why would anybody want to do that? So yeah, it's the school's 1,000,000% the school's responsibility to make sure they're protected by whatever means possible. A guard at every door, ballistics windows, man traps for the doorways getting in, everything, every single thing possible, so that the training, the knowledge, armed teachers in the school, armed janitors, armed librarians. Got to be quiet in the library, though. All that. Everything.
That's where the silencer comes in.
Oh, I like that. Yes. Nice.
This is kind of piggybacking what you're talking about, Matt. I've said this for a long time. When you talk to people about teachers carrying firearms or school staff carrying firearms, you always get an earful of, what if the teacher's having a bad day? What if the kids don't come in from recess? What if, whatever. If you think your kids' teachers are going to pull a gun out and shoot at the kids because they're not coming in from recess, I always give them a little bit of, maybe you should, parent your kids a little better so they don't behave that way. But there's a little bit of, if you think that adult is going to behave that way, then that person probably isn't suitable to be a teacher.
Very true.
Period.
Your kids are they're with school staff from, I don't know, 7:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. That's 10 to 12 hours of the day. That's almost half their lives. Half their 5 days a week they're spending in the care of someone else. Do you not trust them with anything else? Do you not trust that they're going to do something about a fire? Do you not trust that if they hurt themselves on the playground? Do you not trust that they're going to break up a fight? Do you not think they're going to do any of this other stuff? These are people that are responsible anyway. If they want to be armed to protect your kids, let them have the training, give them the training, let them be able to carry. And of course, we don't want to force this on anyone that doesn't want to do this. Just like in our private lives, I don't want someone to carry a gun that doesn't want to carry a gun, but I don't want you to stop me because I want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The question that I ask back when somebody says, what if the one I always get is, what if there's an argument over grades and a teacher pulls out a gun? My question is, today, if there's an argument about grades, is there a big problem with teachers punching the kid in the face?
That's good.
No. So they're not using the tool they have today in that case where everybody agrees that there is no violence necessary, there's no force necessary.
Right.
Where are you getting this, that they're going to pull out a gun in a fight over grades? Yeah. And the other thing I get along those lines is, I wouldn't trust my kid's teacher. Like she just would be too afraid. Okay, so is there anybody in the school? Because we don't need every single person.
Right.
Is there a coach? Is there a janitor? Almost every school the janitor or the facilities person is armed, of the armed schools, I should say. But it doesn't take everybody. As you said, Charlie, this isn't mandatory. This is for people who volunteer and say, I would like to be a part of the solution, because if something happens, I'm going to go protect children with my body anyway.
Right.
I would like a chance to stop the killing, save the children, potentially go home to my family that night.
With the fire extinguisher that you mentioned, Charlie, I like using that as a good entry point. I go, you guys have fire extinguishers in the school, right? And they're, oh, yeah. I said, and they're not expecting you to be a fireman, right? And they're like, well, no. So it's a tool, right? Tool to put out a fire if there's a fire, right? It's a potential tool to help a potential thing that might happen. Hope it doesn't happen, but if it happens and you know how to use it, they taught you how to use it, trained you on it. Yeah. A gun's no different. A gun's a tool just like a fire extinguisher. They're not expecting you to be law enforcement, but having that tool, better to have it not need it than need it not have it. And having it on you in case that happens, which is more likely now than a fire these days, right? Because we haven't had fire in a public school in 100 years or something like that. That's killed a kid from what statistics say. So maybe we should look at a different tool to help with something that's becoming a common occurrence. And
to take that a step further, Matt, if there's a fire in the school kitchen and you have an access to a fire extinguisher, you're not going to just stand there and wait for the fire department to get there. You're going to start putting out the fire because people could get hurt while you're waiting for the fire department. It's the same thing. And the training standards are very high. They have to pass the same. Here in Colorado, it's called the post-qualification Peace Officer Standards and Training. Mm-hmm. They have to pass that same post-qualification in handgun proficiency. We actually make it a little bit harder, so they have to exceed the post-qualification in handgun proficiency. They have to do the annual qualification. They have to have their training hours. The school boards say, in addition to your annual training, you have to dry fire once a week, and you have to be at the range once a month and do drills in your school once a quarter. It's a big commitment for the folks that raise their hand to volunteer to do this, typically for no extra pay. But again, these are the people who would die to protect children, and they should have a chance to stop the killing, save the children, and live.
So we're saying that they have to pass the background check to get a license to be able to have the gun in the first place. They have to go through that aspect of it. Then they have to do more training than the state requires for them to have the gun. They have to do more training to be able to carry the gun in the schools. So that whole thought process of, I just don't want my teacher pulling the gun out and shooting my kid, is just as likely that somebody's going to take a fire extinguisher off the wall and hit their kid with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to add to the background checks, schools, when they hire school employees at, in whatever position, just to work around children, you have to have another background check. Yep. So these are very vetted people, and they have to go through a vetting process at their school to be able to carry. So there's like a panel interview with administrators, maybe a board member, maybe a member of local law enforcement, talking about why you want to be a part of this armed team. So yeah, by the time they get to class, they've been through a whole lot of stuff. And then our instructors, who are, again, all law enforcement guys, they're looking at the class members in faster classes the same as they would look at recruits in the academy. Are there any red flags I'm seeing? Are there any attitudinal concerns? So these people are I'm going to say they're among the most vetted people in the state of Colorado at this point.
Have you guys had anyone that has gone through training that you've decided against carrying a firearm?
Yeah, so we don't make the decision on whether or not they carry, but we can provide feedback to their leadership that we don't recommend. We're failing them, and so that's happened 2 times in 7 years.
2 times. So that's a pretty good track record that people are, and you've had over 350
people. Yeah.
All right. So that's a pretty good track record.
Yeah. So it speaks to how well they're being screened before they get to us. Now we have about 15% failure rate on skills. So it is a difficult class to pass. If they have the right mindset and the willingness to continue their training, we want more well-trained armed people out there. So sometimes somebody didn't make it last year, spent the whole year training, came back to us this year and like aced everything, but they had the right mindset. They just didn't have their skills weren't up to it yet. So
right. And mindset really comes with time.
Age, maturity.
It does, because again, when you go back and talk to your friends that are non-gun people, and they say, "What do you carry a gun? But what are you going to get into a fight with somebody on the side of the road over road rage? Are you gonna shoot somebody because they parked too close at the grocery store, or they bumped their cart into your car?" And I like to look at these people and say, I don't think you're smart enough to have a gun. So you know what? Not everyone should have a gun, and we're starting with you.
Yeah, and we've had some younger folks. Our mindset's not just about age. Perhaps some of it comes with age, but our first year in 2017, a gal was in our first class. It was her first year of teaching. She is still teaching. She just came through level 4 this year, and 100% she was the best performer, both at the range and in all the scenarios at the school. And it was, I don't often sit back and go, man, this is pretty cool what we do. But that was a moment for me, because I was like, man, I remember 2017 when it was her first year teaching, and she grew up around guns. She's very comfortable. She did fine in 2017 as well, but she has taken her job so seriously. It's a very small school. There are 2 teachers, that's it, that are armed right now. And she knows that she is one of the 2 people that is responsible for saving all of the children if something happens. And I was just like, yes, I'm proud of our program, but I was so proud of this individual for how far she'd come in her training, to be like absolutely the best person that we've had go through that class this year.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm still stuck on, the vetting process and whatnot. I'm kind of wondering, is there any way we can get that same level of awesomeness when Hunter fills out a 4473 and Joe runs for president?
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Wow.
It'd save us a lot of headaches. Just saying.
A lot of headaches. All right, listen, we only have a few minutes left. Matt is going to tally up our numbers. Laura is going to pick our 2 winners. We are going to be giving away a CERT training pistol, which it's got the green laser, I think. And we're also going to be giving away a Mantis X. So if you have not emailed, or if you have not gone to meetthepressers.com/giveaway, it is too late. It's officially too late. But we're going to be doing another one in the month of November. So we'll give one away sometime around Thanksgiving. So you still need to be tuned in and checking out Meet the Pressers and Riding Shotgun. If you haven't subscribed to both of these channels, which by the way, I think it's only going out on the YouTubes tonight. So we're going to have to figure out what is going on there. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Laura, where can people, before we close things out and pick these numbers, where can people find Faster?
Thank you. We should have said that earlier. I forgot. They can find me at fastercolorado.com. No, fastercolorado.org. They both get you there. fastercolorado.org. You can find out about what we do, see who's on our team, just see our media, follow us on social media. We'd love to communicate with you.
So I was hanging out with some of the Faster people in Phoenix at Gun Rights Policy Conference, and I was with Dave Laird, and he said that level 3 is the top one. And I'm like, I think Colorado has level 4. And he's like, I don't know anything about this. I'm like, well, I do, because I know Laura Carno. And she
yeah, it's just, we had so many people in level 3 that, and these are, the best of the best in our world. And they said, they gave us feedback. Can we have like different drills? And so we said, yeah, we'll call that level 4. Not a problem.
There we go.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Give it to us, Matt.
All right. Give me a number between 1 and 25, Laura.
24.
Ooh, 24.
My lucky number.
Look it's Clayton. Clayton Schlossler.
All right. Congratulations, Clayton.
So we're going to give, and tell us which one should we give him, Laura? Should we give him the CERT or should we give him the Mantis?
The CERT, because we start in alphabetical order, as is the proper order of things.
Ooh, like a teacher right there.
Wait,
all right.
Mantis begins with an M. Isn't M before
I'm
S?
not going to argue with her.
Sirt.
C-S-S-I-R-T.
S-I-T.
Oh,
That's
that's okay.
not C-E-R-t. That's all right. Too late.
Okay.
We're giving
Okay.
them the
So
Nope,
so
that's
my
no,
so
it's
my
too late.
alphabet was backward.
He's
okay.
getting
There's
the
nothing
cert-
wrong with
Okay,
dyslexia.
Sirt. Yeah.
All right.
I,
And
right, I'm Lex Disick.
another number from 1 to 25, not number 24.
17.
17. Lucky number 17 is going to be Demetrius Jones.
All right, Demetrius. Congratulations, Demetrius, and to who's the other guy?
Clayton.
Clayton. Actually, I met Clayton and his wife down in at KD Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn down in Missouri
cool.
this year. So yeah, great. So those are the two winners of Mantis and the Cert for the month of November. Near the end of the month, we'll pick two more winners going into December, and yeah, it's awesome. Thank you,
Congratulations,
Laura.
guys.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so Matt is going to email you two folks, and he'll get your mailing addresses. Laura, thank you so much for hopping on with us tonight. It's always a pleasure and a treat to see you and spend some time with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's a really great format. I like this show a lot.
Cool.
This is
fun.
good stuff. Everyone else, well, we thank you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie and YouTube. And here's why you need to follow us on the YouTube and on the Facebook is because the Facebook didn't work tonight. And I'm old, so I call it the Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I call it the fake book is what I call it.
The fake book. That works too. All right, listen, you guys, thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you guys soon. And Matt's going to get those emails out, and we'll talk to you guys. We'll talk. How many times can I say we'll talk to you later?
Stay safe.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
We're out.